welcome everybody. For those of you who don't know, Visual Arts Passage is the one that delivers the Drawing Hive. So if you're here to draw, you're in the right place. But just remember, it comes from Visual Arts Passage. And what we do is we help people develop careers by helping them create professional portfolios through a mentorship program. And we assist painters, illustrators, and biz dev artists. We've done a great job with it. We got lots of professionals out in the industry that have worked with us, so that have come to our program. And if you're interested, check it out. Tonight, we're doing
the least popular episode annually.
Oh, come on. It's tough.
True.
I know. It's tough for the rest of the country. It's tough. But we got to do it. I mean, it's the most popular thing on TV. Everybody, we got good reference. This is about drawing. We're going to keep a positive point of view. And Ray, this isn't about the past. It's all about the future. Just keep thinking about that. It's all about the future. So we got Jalen Hurts up first. We have Patrick Mahomes up second. And then third, Saquon Barkley. And bringing up the rear here is Chris Jones. You can do one, you can do all four. We're going to do two 20-minute poses and one 40-minute pose. And try new materials, use it as a push-up and sit-up. That's, I think, what Cassandra and Ray and I do. This is like the gym for us. And just plus it's a fun time to see our friends and talk and see what everybody makes. At the end of the night, we all share work. It's pretty awesome. So I'm ready to draw. I've been drawing, and hopefully everybody else is ready.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So like John mentioned, we want to see your work at the end of the episode. So please post it to Instagram. We're going to scroll through all the art at the end of the night. If in your caption, you just put #DrawingHive236, #DrawingHive and add Visual Arts Passage, it'll pop up for us. We'll see it. It's my favorite part of the night. Should be fun one. All right. And I forgot, somebody asked for me to put up a Kendrick option, and I didn't. So pick your Kendrick and draw it. The ball is in your court.
That's halftime, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been of the opinion it should have been Lil Wayne since it's in New Orleans, but
I've heard that from multiple people.
Yeah. Kendrick also he has an incredible catalog. I mean, he's Pulitzer Prize winning rapper. I mean, incredible, but the type of music he has made during his career, I don't think he doesn't have the catalog that Lil Wayne has for like Super Bowl halftime type music. But I'm sure they're going to make it work. I mean, Kendrick's amazing. What's Ray, you're in Photoshop. Cassandra, what are you working with tonight? You got cardboard, your trusty cardboard.
Acrylic on cardboard sealed with GAC 100.
That's the classic.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to open up the chat for everybody so you can all chime in and let us know how it's going.
I'm in Photoshop. I didn't get a chance to say that. Producer cut me off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm in Photoshop also.
All right.
Drawing with really big crayons.
Yeah, I found these. These are awesome.
Nice.
Look at these. They're Senneliers.
Oil sticks. Yeah.
No, they're Senneliers. They're just huge oil pastels.
Oh, really? They're not oil sticks? Wow, those are gigantic.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
They're like $18 a crayon.
It makes your hand look like it's a baby hand.
Yeah, you look like you're like live from Visual Arts Passage daycare.
John, you're a giant. Everybody, the chat's on now. Be sure to toggle it to everyone And let us know where you're tuning in from and what materials you're going to use tonight. That's fun. So where did you get those, John?
I got them at the art supply store.
Do you always buy supplies like at brick and mortar shops, or do you
No, some of the things, especially like when I'm getting well, I thought it was a really good idea when I first did it, was I ordered a bunch of cradled panels and had them shipped to the house.
Mhm.
And the problem was I like looking at them because some of the edges are screwed up on them sometimes, and I got a few that I had to send back, and it was just a big pain in the ass.
Mm.
Someone said, I think John cheated. Well, when you're on the panel and you've been doing this for like 7 years, you get to start whenever you want on Thursdays. Yeah.
Do you though? I think the
Yeah.
commenter has a point.
Well,
Just
I
cheater.
cheated, but I'm gonna go backwards here real fast.
Yeah.
I did it for a reason. I just I don't have enough time to do this. Um, but I'm gonna take some turpentine and just kind of obliterate it.
Someone we posted like a meme on like how do you when's the painting done meme. It's like when do you know the painting's done meme, and somebody commented I thought this was such a funny answer, and maybe it's a really common one, but when it's not as good as it was. I was like, that's a really funny.
It starts getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it hurts too much to keep working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Somebody asked,
about when I think my career is over, it's done.
When you
Yeah,
question
That's
your
when,
life. Yeah.
yeah. Question like, yeah. When I start looking at universities that have accounting degrees. No offense to people with accounting degrees. I'm really bad at math, so
Nice. Ray, it's great to have you here. What have you been working on lately?
I've been working on gallery painting. I got a couple of those in the works, and
Are those like cityscapes or people or
um
still
think
life?
two. No, I think one is a landscape. The other two of them are still lives, and then there's one cityscape that I've been looking at. I'm in the early stages with.
John, I know I ask this every week, but we got new people in here tonight. What are you doing now?
Not sure.
Well, I mean, what process did you just start right now?
Well, I did this. Those big crayons are really, really nice oil crayons. They're
Yeah.
Sennelier oil pastels, and they're just again. I use the analogy all the time. It's like drawing with lipstick, and then when I put it down, I kind of care. I mean, I really thought out the drawing. It's pretty careful with putting things in the right place, but it's pretty much just there's a little bit of history of it now. I mean, it's there's certainly no rendering or anything there. But I just wanted to do some things that are maybe a little bit more unique, play around, try to loosen up a little bit more. I have this big thing about telling my students all the time to experiment and to also know your strengths and weaknesses as an artist. And one of my biggest weaknesses is that I tend to want to like over polish and over render things. Um, this takes care of that for me, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it looks super cool. And also like this is I don't know if this is something I'm just coming into understanding is like the idea of doing a careful drawing and then being okay with covering it up and obliterating it and leaving like a ghost of it. Is
Yeah.
that like it's not the marks necessarily. Like there are big marks there that are, you have your landmarks in, no problem. But also like the part of the drawing process for you was, when I do it, or when any artist does, is you're learning about the proportions. So you're storing that information in your head, so you could refine them really quickly because you know where to look and what to relate.
Right, right. Now, one of the things I just realized that does not work well with this, and I wish I wouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have put any white down. It doesn't, it doesn't move like the other crayons do. And so note for next time. Oops. Finn didn't like it either. Finn's my dog.
Yeah, I go back and forth with my pieces in terms of how involved I go with the drawing, how involved I get with things and specificity of and I guess it's just the way I look at it, it's like on a case by case basis with me. Early on, and I used to really kind of put everything in the right place, do a careful drawing regardless of what it was. And nowadays, I know what to look for, and if I have the right amount of information, enough information to start, I just start. So sometimes it's like just a couple of indicative, lines, and other times it's like really involved. Did any of you two kind of do it like that, or things like
Oh
that?
yeah. Sometimes it's fun to get like lost in the details and just go down the minute detail rabbit hole. And other times it's fun to do the opposite and just be very non-specific.
You're so, Cassandra, you're so good at finding your drawing after you block things in. And, it's another mindset, a way to draw, to really, everybody look at what Cassandra's doing there, just establishing that silhouette and working from the very vague, the shape, and then bringing it to the specifics to it. I like getting, right, kind of like what you were talking about. It's like, I like figuring it out in a drawing, and I'd rather like obliterate it and lose it and then go back to it. There's something about having the landmarks there. There's something about some of the accidents that happen, the mark making that's already in the right place when I do that it's easier for me to hold on to it. I don't
Yeah,
know if that makes sense
that's
or not.
yeah, it does. I mean, it's you're kind of thinking about it more like you're having a dialogue between you and the painting surface and the substrate.
Yeah.
So you're seeing what it does and then responding to it, and you have a plan coming in, but there's an element of unknown on it. I mean, it's for the first year, Ray, learning how to teach, learning how to paint version of me, I would be like, that doesn't make any sense. He doesn't even care about drawing. Just look at him, right? Or he ruined a perfectly good drawing, but now I understand. Like,
I think I did.
oh, yeah, you
That's
might
probably
have, but
that's probably the most identifiable thing about this picture at the end.
no, but it's like but you trust in you're seeing what the board is doing, what the medium's doing, and that's going to ultimately result in something so much more interesting.
Well, it's really
Because you're
freeing
kind of
too.
controlling chaos. Yeah, I agree.
Like
What
if
did
you
you-
have the guts to run over it and kind of lose the details, then it kind of gives you the freedom to find them in a unique way.
Yeah, that's a way better way of putting it. So, Jimmy, if we
I've,
can
I've never
just
run
edit that
over a
in.
beach before, but Gianna has. She's done it for me.
Yeah. Her response would be
why is your artwork in the middle of the driveway?
Yeah, yeah,
Which I think is a valid response.
yeah.
Then my response is because we're packing up and moving out of here.
Yeah. She didn't even realize that until it was like 9 hours later, and she was like, "Wait a second, why was that there?"
Do you remember at the end of the session, we put a bunch of names in the hat, everybody's names in the hat, and then
Can you tell them what we're talking about?
well, at the Illustration Academy, all of the visiting artists did demonstrations. And plus they drew with the students, 2 or 3 times a week. And so we had all these life drawings, we had all these demos people have done. And so there's like Gary Kelly, Chris Payne, Mark English's. I mean, there's just this killer work, and we lay it all out all over the floor. And there's literally probably 150 pieces or more. And because we, 40 or 50 people, and a lot of people walked away, with 3 pieces. So yeah, there's, 120 to 150 pieces. And I remember Edward being so concerned about because we draw out of the hat, and then obviously somebody has to go first. And so you're always concerned, like, which artist is going to get chosen first, which student, the students, what are they thinking is the coolest piece? And so Edward kept calling me. He goes, who got chosen first? He wasn't there. He had already gone home. And I sent a picture to Edward of his piece, one of his pieces, and my father was standing on it.
Oh my gosh.
It was
Oh, I loved it.
we would always take that photo of everybody holding up all the artwork swag that they were leaving with, and we just made sure that Ted's was like in the background on the ground. Which, in his defense, for like 3 years in a row, his was always the first to go, which is a quite an
Good segue.
achievement, because everybody would always talk about how expensive this workshop was, but if you chose the right artwork at the raffle, you could pay for the workshop. Like, it covered the costs.
That was only a couple of those artists that, that you could choose to do that. But
You
it was
could.
true. I mean, if you
Yeah,
went first, and first or maybe the first 3, they could find a
Yeah.
piece that would cover the cost of it.
even if you're
It's
just
like
recouping
a market
50%.
on eBay for Illustration Academy artwork originals.
Yeah, but you never know though. It's like
Oh, I mean, somebody in the audience just said, I got a Gary Kelly, a Doug Chayka, and a Sterling Hunley. Yeah, that pays for it. That covers it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember it was funny. It was like we were down to like the last 12 or 13 pieces, and there was this beautiful figure drawing of my father's just still sitting there, and it wasn't signed, and I felt like, well, I said something. It's like, I just have to tell you that that's probably the piece to pick. And of course they did it immediately, but I thought it was interesting that they couldn't figure that out themselves. The group, they were going for, they got so panicked. Remember, one of the students,
I couldn't stand the thing, because it finally, I think it was after like 20 people, I was like, all right, people, you've got 30 seconds. You should be thinking. You should put a mental list together, because it gets to a point where you're like, we can't wait 10 minutes for each of these people to pick out their art, and like they're weighing, and you're just like, I want to go home tonight, everybody.
I can just see you being so annoyed to me, being like, come on, just pick it.
Yeah, and we did that. I think this is what you're gonna say, John. It was the first person that got picked. They went up and they just they grabbed a brochure that the college just had left laying out. And I was just like, okay, wait, no, we're not going to let this happen. This is no,
You
that
got to
is-
go back through, man.
Stop. You need extra time, I guess. Yeah. I did feel bad about that, but it was funny.
I could just hear the groan from you.
Oh, I mean,
like
we're,
when-
we're 4 weeks in and I've, I've attended like 20, like 7 hour long group critiques. I'm like, you guys all got to go back. We got to get you guys back to your own states. Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. No, that was the camp counselor era of my life. Yeah. Fun is fun, but it was always a marathon. And I
What's that?
yeah. It was like I was running like a really bad hotel for 4 weeks. Yeah.
Well, we were.
Yeah. It was like I would always tell people would call and they'd be like, what should I expect with the dorms? And I was like,
Not much.
Sleep in them.
I literally was like, we are trying to make this as affordable as possible. So just pretend you're going camping. I was just like, we have stripped everything off this thing, right? Oh my God. Yeah. Somebody asked what year was my camp. It was every year of the academy.
Up to 2019.
Wait, Timmy, you
Yeah.
weren't there when I was there.
Oh, I mean, I'm just referring my involvement. So
Oh, okay. I was like,
The academy started in
2016.
1995. And I started it, my dad and I started it. And very poetically, COVID came along. And so 2019 was the last year we did it, and it happens to be the year my father passed away. And so I'm good with that. I feel
Yeah.
like that's appropriate.
Yeah. Also it's in-person workshops are there was a golden era for it. And now, and it might change, but now, right now, with just, and it probably will, it's just so expensive for people to travel in. And I mean, you really have to have like it has to be a convention almost for it to work now. Like,
Yeah.
because college campuses cost a fortune to rent out, and it's just a lot of moving parts, you know. But you never know.
And also you have to deal with the faculty.
haha.
Yeah, you have to convince them to stay in a dorm. You know.
Yeah, not end up sleeping in the streets.
Yeah,
They've been hanging out all night.
yeah.
Use your bed, please.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see you in your prime there, Timmy. Actually, no. I would have felt bad because I'm like, man, that guy's under a lot of stress.
He's really
Yeah.
stressed out.
Yeah,
It's
he's really
pretty
stressed
stressful.
out.
It's pretty
Yeah.
stressful.
I'm like,
It was always really stressful. I mean, like, like now I fully turn my phone off at like 9:30. Because it's like no good call. I'm not gonna get any good call after 9:30. Like that's like how I feel, right? And I've lived a life where I've gotten those bad calls and I don't ever want to do it again. I'm always just like, I will be better if I wake up to the bad news.
Were half
And
the
Yeah.
bad calls in Illustration Academy?
well, first of all, you have to be available. You
right.
Yeah.
like if you're getting a call, like I was always the first phone call that the school would give, and I have to be available. Like I can't not answer because there are people, like that these are adult, it was an adult program, so they're all adults. But sometimes I questioned that the way they behaved. And so yeah, I got
That was just the
Well,
faculty.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, the faculty was always great for me.
Faculty
this-
orientation was the worst part.
faculty were always very like mature, respectful, everything. But you know, get a call from Kansas City Police Department picking somebody up because this is the good one. They treated themselves that night and had a lot of fun. And they there are two college campuses in Kansas City. One is UMKC and one's Rockhurst University. They're pretty close to each other. And this person went back to the wrong dorms
Oh no.
Oh,
and was trying to get back into the wrong dorm. Yeah. Yeah, somebody asked.
That sounds
We're not-
right.
Totally understandable.
Xander
hey,
asked a
Mr.
question.
Mr. Trayvon, we have a Christopher Payne here. Says he knows you.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Chris Payne. It wasn't, but that's exactly how the phone call started. Hi, this is Mr. Trayvon, and you're like, it's like 3 a.m. and you're like,
You're like,
this is my one opportunity to say no and hang up. And you're like, yeah, it is. What's going on? You know. There's nothing ever serious. It was always just dumb things. Xander asked a question. I'm going to tell you, we're not entertaining that question. Yeah. Now, John, are you? I know you've got some learning for us tonight.
Yeah, but
Do you want
I'm
to
gonna,
crack into that?
I
Do you
do.
need some time?
No, give me 1 second.
Some Timmy time.
I'm screwing this thing up here.
Take your time. We don't have the production tonight's pretty low. We do not have sound effects. So
Oh,
I don't know
well
if
then, should I even do it?
that canceled the whole thing. Yeah.
All right.
Well, before you do jump into it, I'm going to say we are going to move on to our second image, second reference. You can choose, honestly, hop around, do whichever ones you're most excited about, but it's another 20 minutes. Please post it to Instagram. It's hashtag Drawing Hive 236, hashtag Drawing Hive and Add Visual Arts Passage. And somebody asked, like, what are we doing? Drawing in my own style? Do I draw it with certain materials? Any materials, any style, just practicing drawing. And if you
Let's
want to
have
draw,
fun.
yeah, just have fun. If you want to draw Kendrick Lamar, you can. But that's on you. I almost did. I almost picked the Chris Buck photo of him with the sword in his mouth, which is a cool one.
Chris Buck, friend of the show.
Friend of the show. Little Chris Buck shout out. Yeah.
If you don't know who he is, you just look him up. You'll know his work.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is ask questions. If you do have questions about the image making process, let us know.
Yeah.
Somebody asked what the players' names are. Go to the link for the reference, and they're all there.
Okay, Timmy.
All right. Here's your intro song, John. Do do do. You ready?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
You did that with so much pizzazz, Timmy.
Sorry.
You look like you
Yeah,
were like,
sorry.
you sounded like you were looking for
Yeah.
your keys while you
You
were
could
doing
not have
it.
been more
Dude.
deadpan.
do. Well, I was trying to be accurate, like tonally, and it removed a lot of emotion.
You're
from
like,
it.
here we go.
Here we
Do,
go.
do.
I will work on that. Cassandra, do you want to chime John in instead of me?
Oh, no,
Please.
no. We're going
Take-
with deadpan. We're going with
I'm
Take
here.
the-
I'm already here.
All right, let's do it.
You can see my share, can't you?
Yeah, it looks
Yes.
great, John.
Okay. So I did this. I chose this artist. He was an illustrator. He's about 20 years older than I am, previous generation. I was really enamored with his work. Didn't know a huge amount about him because he was a West Coast guy, but I knew a lot of his work. And I knew I could probably get Ray in here because I know Ray knew him. So, David Grove. And he did some, and I, every time I think of subject matter, I think of illustrations that I related to, of thinking about football. And I thought of instantly this piece.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. And then I thought of this piece, Earl Campbell. Just always loved that. And then he did a lot of work for the NFL. He did a lot of golf illustration. He did all kinds of stuff. But David was born 1940, passed away in 2012. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame at the Society of Illustrators in 2007. In between, he produced an immense amount of work. And he did a lot of book covers. He seemed to, here I'll read some of his clients: American Airlines, Standard Oil, Time Warner, United States Navy, General Motors, Warner Brothers, Universal Studios, Walt Disney, Arco, Goodyear, Indianapolis 500, Pendleton, Woolen Mills, Mercedes-Benz of North America, National Football League. There we go. Ballantine books, Bantam books, Penguin books. I used to see a lot, and the other place I noticed him real early on was in Road and Track. He did a lot of portraits and even some cars of really famous race car drivers. So absolutely amazing illustrator. You'll recognize some of this work. That's Vince Lombardi in the background and Bart Starr in the foreground. Look at that portrait. Pretty awesome. Love that temperature change. The blue Lombardi in the background.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing to
David,
pull.
David always said that he could care. Let's see if I can clean this up because I think he swore every other sentence, every in between words, but he said that he could care less about local color. He's telling me it's all about warmth. It's a great example.
Well, he sure made it work. David was he grew up in Philadelphia, believe it or not, and spent time illustrating in France and England, and then moved back and settled in San Francisco. And Ray, when did you come across him?
I came across him around 2000 and I want to say 4. He was in I picked up my first issue of Spectrum magazine and noticed beautiful Donato Giacolas and the Greg Manchus and James Gurney and in the but what I also noticed was this beautiful painting of knights riding through a forest and the sunlight poking through all these like trees, tree branches, and I'm like, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to paint like that. I was like, who's this young kid, David Grove? I've never heard of him. And I looked up in the back of the Spectrum, used to have like the illustrator's address and phone number. So I called him up and left a message and then looked him up online. By the way, that's for Never Cry Wolf. That was one of his first movie posters.
Very cool.
Yeah, I got a lithograph of that. Did I tell you that, John?
No.
Oh,
You
I got it
just- you
for
just did.
Santa Claus. Santa Claus brought it to me. I got to
That's
send you a
nice.
picture of it. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So he what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I looked him up and I left a message, and I noticed a voice on his, he had an answering machine. The voice was like really deep, and I'm like, oh, this guy might not be as young as I think he is. And I looked him up, and he had just been inducted into the Hall of Fame of illustration. I'm like, how did I not know this? So glad I did that. So yeah, and so
Were you
lived
still
in,
in school or you were out of school?
yeah.
That-
No,
Really?
I was in school. Yep, I was in school. I was studying at the Academy of Art University, and we had studios in Chestnut, which is right where David used to live. He used to live, I think, across from Washington Square Park. It was called, and he had a beautiful house, and you walk up these stairs that he had a door. He could open up the door from the top of the house so that when I answered the door, like on the answer, like the intercom, he was like, all right, I'll let you in. And then the door just opened up magically. And I'm like, what am I looking, what am I staring into? stepping into here, and
Did it
beautiful
lock
skylit.
behind you when you walk in?
Yeah, it did. It did. It totally did. I was like, oh boy.
Here we go.
And here we go. But yeah, I met him. He was so gracious with his time. I wanted to ask him if he could if he would be interested in doing an independent study with me. And at this time I had no idea whether or not he taught. Later on, I found out that he was a teacher for a while, and some of his students were illustrators that people might know, like Greg Manchus, um, Robert Hunt, Kazuhiko Sano, some pretty incredible illustrators. And Greg just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. So he had said he kindly declined my offer. And I'm like, they'll pay you. I don't know how much they'll pay you. He's like, no, it's okay. And he's like, but you can come by once a month and show me work if you want. That's what I did. I would
How good is that?
all my paintings all the way up. And so he ended up just giving me the independent study without the hassle of, having to be on a schedule and stuff. And yeah, I learned a ton from him. So I was able to see he had a bunch of originals. He had an excellent collection of illustration art as well. John, he had an Earl Blossom
Really?
in his and he
Earl Blossom or
couple of
Dave Blossom?
Earl, the Cooper Studios guy.
Okay.
It was like a romance illustration. It was beautiful gouache painting. I was like, I know who that is. And he was shocked, like, how are we supposed to know Earl Blossom? The guy's been dead for like 40 years. Oh, that was a great painting. I saw that one in real life. The colors are a lot more subtle in it, but beautiful, warm, and cool. This is done in gouache with touches of acrylic on top. David, at first when he started his illustration career, he actually, he has a great book. It's called David Grove, An Illustrated Life, and he wrote it, and it's his notes on how he came about. And he talks about how much respect he had and admiration for artists like Bernie Fuchs and your dad. They come up all the time in the book. And
I can see Heindel
he
in
was
his work a lot too.
oh yeah, he was absolutely. Heindel, that whole group. He talked about how he would, when he was working in an illustration studio in London, there was a time of the month where all the illustrators went to this one stand that had the ladies' magazines from America,
Mhm.
and they would collect all of them. And these guys will all come in with all these women's magazines, and you would think like they would just buy them all, and people didn't know like what's going on. And then he said that the studio was just silent because all you could hear was just page turning, of them just studying like the latest pieces from that group of artists. He experimented with like some acrylics on drawing, like a lot of people did. I sat in one of those chairs, by the way, that chair right there. That's actually for the Society of Illustrators Los Angeles like call for entries poster. So
You
he
mean
had two
like
chairs in his garden.
this?
Yep, there it is.
Yep.
There
I
it is.
thought
Yeah.
it was fun. I found all the process to it, or some of the process.
Yeah,
It was cool.
that's awesome.
Beautiful piece. It was fun, finding his drawings, seeing some of the, he called them positioning sketches. And that's what they are. Most of them,
Yep.
they're all on tissue paper or vellum, tracing paper, whatever
Yeah.
you call it.
Yep. And
That's how everybody worked back then. That was Photoshop.
He was big on reference, and like he said that he was one of the first people that he knew that bought the first VCR that could pause and advance a frame.
Yeah.
And he spent an exorbitant amount of money for it. But what he would do is he would have all these movies and stuff, and he would find reference like that a lot of times too. He would shoot his own photography. He was a heck of a photographer. He worked as a advertising photographer out of school initially.
Ray, I just wanted
always loved illustration.
Like, I just look at all that tape, look at all those layers.
Yeah.
Layers and layers of drawings stacked on top of each other to get exactly what he wanted to positioning wise. And it's that was really common back then. And it's, it's still the artists that are, I use tracing paper all the time. And
These
it's
are great, John.
very effective.
Where'd you get that one? I've never seen that.
I found it on it was I think it was a Muddy Colors piece that
Oh.
Robert Hunt did on him. A story that
I gotta
Robert
go.
did.
I gotta go back and look at that.
I had some
Yeah,
like
so very. Sorry.
there's more experimental stuff in here. There's a Walt Disney. Towards the end, he's got some things with other mediums I hadn't seen before, which I thought was pretty cool. Donald Sutherland.
He came into one thing I was going to say is he did most of his stuff his early career in Pelican Inks, and he said one day he was at an art director's office with one of his pieces hanging that he had won some sort of award for, and he took it off I love that Pale Rider.
Was it faded?
Yeah, he took it off and he said it was matted and he pulled the mat. He looked at it, he was like, that looks a little weird. It doesn't look as vibrant as I remember. And he pulled the mat over from underneath it and noticed, like, shocked at the difference. And he had no idea. And he'd always use pigments that, because his dad was an engraver for the US Mints. That's why they were in Philly. And it was a painter himself. His parents were artists. His mother was a sculptor, and his dad was, a painter and artist and engraver. And he always used burnt sienna, like the classic colors, that were, and he called the ink people, and they were like, well, they're synthetic, we use the name, but it's really not the real pigment. It's like in shock. And so there was a Canadian illustrator that he had known by the name of Philip Keller, that had, he would hang out with every so often. He saw him like shortly after he found out about the Pelican thing, and Keller had showed him what he was doing with gouache and lifting it out, and he said, "Wow, that's great." And so he did a couple of experiments, and that's how he picked up that technique. I love that. That's in his kitchen.
Killer piece.
I was like, oh, I sat there too. It's so funny. Do this stuff. This was like later on in his career when he did a couple of series of dancers and to try something to experiment with different subject matter. And David is so a matter of fact about things too with me, and or just as a person, he said, in his book, he was like, yeah, I tried dancers, but I'll never be Bob Heindel. No one will ever be Bob Heindel. Bob Heindel owned the subject matter. He said he liked the work.
I put these in here. I know they're advertisements, but man, they're really beautiful.
Yeah. I think it's
so
Pendleton,
many good illustrators work
books.
for Pendleton. I mean, they use the best people in the industry. It was a good gig.
Love those.
I could not get a great shot of this. This is as good as I could get, and this was actually off that blog, or off Muddy Colors.
I have to see if I have a
Just
good
really
shot of
small.
that.
It's a beautiful piece, though.
Oh, I saw that in real, and the colors I could tell you are like the blue is super. It's not quite like that. It's
pretty
so
big?
subtle, but yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say it's like 14 by or 18 by really long, tall. It was sizable from what I remember. And I started, he had just finished that when I saw him. I think this was for the book series for the John Le Carré. I could be wrong about this one. I'm looking that up right now. Yeah, I think so.
We all remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, so
And
he spent some time doing movie poster stuff.
This was a lousy shot, but I found a close-up of it that really, you can see it a lot better.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, he spent some time doing LA after Never Cry Wolf. He got brought back for this movie called Something Wicked This Way Comes, and he tried out a concept and it didn't work out, and they gave it to another artist, and then they liked the idea, but it didn't work out for the execution. They came back to him with this idea layout, and that's what became the poster. And from there, he did The Outsiders and Spirit Quest and comps for. He was in the running for a lot of other different posters.
I always
This
liked
was
it.
this was for Baron Stories. He put out a zine.
Oh,
And
no kidding.
this was about AIDS, I think. I'm getting that. I saw that piece too. That's he was
That's a
really
really cool
particular. I mean, if
piece.
we just look at like his use of just edge control, like what got lost, what was found.
Yeah.
Um,
I always loved this
love
one
that
too.
piece. Always love that piece.
It's a killer piece.
Yeah, I saw that one too. He was always trying different ones. That's probably my favorite of the dancing.
And this
So
was
yeah, I remember.
this was an underpainting. Um, but he had a bunch of like experimental stuff.
Yeah, was that from Robert's blog post? I think I remember that.
Yeah. That looks like
Yeah,
a portrait of Heindel. Looks exactly like him.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Look at this
Yeah, I
watercolor.
love that. I love that
Is that a
watercolor.
watercolor or a gouache?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a watercolor.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Could be wrong. He did a couple of Parisian things. He had this one that was a pastel called Odeon Window. Beautiful figure. A pastel.
Here he is working.
Here
Pretty
he
good
is.
size. And I had to end with this shot because, you know, everybody needs an old Corvette.
Loves, I'd never seen the car. Greg Manchus told me about it, and he just loved this thing. He was a big car person, um, and yeah, so he was just always really classic cars. He liked anything that was well done, really
Look
particular
good.
guy. Yeah, and also just some, like the paintings look like they were done very quickly, but it was so slow. He took so much care and everything, anything down to the drawing, the reference, the things that he told me about reference. Um, being a photographer, he was very keen on what good lighting is, and he was always into movies and studied a lot of those, and um, so yeah, he was, everything he did with purpose. I think, I've never seen David never struck me as somebody who would just like, I'll just do this, whatever, and just kind of like write it
Well,
off,
he was very, very good.
you know.
All right. Well, that's our introduction to David Grove. And Ray, thank you for helping me out. You know a lot more about him than I do. I was looking at his work before you were. Just I was on the planet longer. Um, but everybody, appreciated what he did. Crazy talent.
It's like
No,
the total boomer hipsterism of being like, I was into it before it was popular. I was into it before you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
his
great.
yeah, thanks John for doing that. I really appreciate
Well, thank you for showing up and uh, helping me out because it's a lot better when the personal stories, somebody that knows him.
Yeah, I could talk all day about him. I mean, if you really want to hear his own voice, a couple of I would recommend, if anybody's ever heard of the Sidebar podcast. It was an art
Oh,
podcast that was. Are you familiar with Sidebar,
Swain?
John?
Is that
Yeah,
Swain? Yeah, sure.
yeah. Yeah, and so it was, you know, full swing at that time. They had a lot of really great interviewed a lot of great comic and illustration uh, artists,
Wayne Hunt.
and Swain Hunt. Yep, Dwight Clark, Swain Hunt,
Yep.
Adrian Johnson.
Who are
Yeah.
all these names?
Great.
Can you guys explain?
So they're hosts
podcast.
of the
Actually, Timmy,
Sidebar
I think you met
podcast.
Swain. I introduced you to him.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I'll introduce it to.
well,
Go
no,
ahead, Ray.
I'm just asking you guys to just say who you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Sidebar, it was an art podcast. It's still around for sure. That this is when podcast was really starting to take off, and they're just fans. Dwight does some art. I mean, Swain's more of a music guy, but they just a huge, great taste and huge appreciation for arts. And so they had a podcast called the Sidebar Podcast, and they had, I mean, the amount of people that they had, like the guests, incredible.
Lots of
from
good artists.
all incredible artists, all of them. So, and I learned a lot about comic book artists from them, and also just like other illustrators that I didn't know about, and so I was a big fan, and I had called them, or I shot them an email and asked them if they were ever be interested in having David Grove on, because David was very much like a Luddite when it came to technology, which is funny because he was so cutting edge for a time, and then this works. I'm sure like I'm gonna get like that for sure. I'll probably still be working in Photoshop on this monitor 20 years from now if it still holds up. Same computer. And he didn't know what a podcast was, and I was like, yeah, it's this thing, like it's in the cloud. Is that what that thing is? I'm like, yeah, I guess so. It's like they're gonna, and so I was able to connect the two, and they did an episode with him, and it was fantastic. It really was fantastic, and I encourage anybody to go listen to it because it's really great. He's really he's such an eloquent person too, and he just a very humble person. Was always just huge fan of, I think, not only contemporary illustrators that he grew up with at the time, like Mark and Bernie and Heindel and Peak and all those, but also the classics to it. He was just an absolute expert on NC Wyeth.
Really?
Loved Wyeth. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely loved him. Told me all about him. Read every single book, and it was really cool. So he said that his attempt was, at painting, like he always wanted to be an oil painter, but just couldn't figure it out. And so that was the best he could do. But the way he would say it, but it was yeah, he did everything from movies and everything. I mean, I will tell you that can I tell it? Is it okay if I tell a quick story about the Something Wicked This Way Comes?
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
So if anybody look, I would encourage you to look it up. It's a rather well-known movie poster, like at least in the history of movie posters. And it's called Something Wicked This Way Comes. Okay,
showed
it was
it.
originally. Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was like the second
Oh,
or
I'm
third
sorry.
piece. The hands like spread out.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I was looking. I have this book next to me, so I could make sure I got the names of people correct, in case you asked. So, two things. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked because I'm excited about talking about David. But the NFL paintings were for this magazine called Pro, and the way David made it sound, like he said that the art director basically just every month he would get like a shoebox filled with just the best reference, and all he had to do was just pick one, and there were no sketches, and they were pretty open about the deadline, and they had really great reproductions, and so he said it was a dream job for him. He knew nothing about football, but then when he saw that the Tommy Hank or Tommy, the one that you showed, John,
Oh, the
with the
red.
red,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, it's
Sorry,
funny. That was San Francisco number 53, and I couldn't identify who it was.
Tommy Hart.
Tommy Hart. There you go.
So he realized that they were more like, they're like, wow, I could do something with this. This is almost like gladiators. So he painted everyone, all the painters, I mean the football players, as if they were gladiators. Okay, so Something Wicked This Way Comes. He gets well known for his piece, his painting "Never Cry Wolf," the movie poster illustration. So the same art director says, "Hey man, you're my wonder kid in L.A. We're working on this movie, it's Disney. Something Wicked This Way Comes. I want you to bring your magic to it. Thanks." And so he was like, "This is my shot. I always loved doing movie posters. Like, I'm really gonna go all out for this thing." And so what he did was, I guess it takes place near like a carousel, or like in amusement park. I'm not sure what the story is, but it involves like a carousel. And he told me that he spared no expense in the reference. That he literally flew out to New York, to Central Park's carousel. And it's like one of the oldest, most famous carousels like in the States, and rented generators to light the thing at night, rented it out, and
Wow.
had actors pose and do this whole photo shoot at night.
That's so
And he was
cool.
not incredible. Um,
For him.
but that's David for you, right? And so, and I'll tell you another story about the about his how far he goes to reference. So he he comes back and he does these paintings, and it's just not working. And he tries his best, and the art director was like, it's not the magic that we had last time, but it's okay. We'll move on. We'll try have somebody else take a crack at it, which is super common in the in that industry. And so they went with somebody else, and then they tried Bob Peak for a little bit. He took a stab at it actually, and then they weren't happy with anything, and then they had uh, like a layout artist or an artist from England. I don't know. He never told me the name, but he had done a rough layout that they really liked. So they came back to him with that idea of painting, and that's how. Yeah. So I asked him. I said, do you have the painting, the original painting? Like, I would love to see what you had tried to attempt, and that he didn't, which is a bummer because I'm sure it was probably
Probably
amazing.
gorgeous.
Yeah. So one last David story, because I can go on forever, but he told me one time, he said that he was again, like, big reference guy, right? Huge reference guy. So he had this one illustration that was working on that involved, I think you actually showed it, John. It was about like militants in the Congo, right? And he needed references for guns, like specific machine guns, to have his friends that he would pose, have him help him pose. And by the way, he rented costumes from theater places in San Francisco. So he needed this gun reference. So what he started to do, he just made it himself. He made it out of like just cardboard and whatever he had, and to get it so that it looked like it was real, he spray painted it black. But in order to spray paint it, he didn't want to do it indoors, so he took it out on his roof, and he had a whole set of arsenal of different types of guns. He did it all at once so he could have it ready for the photo shoot.
I read about
Well,
this.
yeah.
This is a great story.
So he was, going up and checking on the pieces, and he was it was like kind of close to at night, and he was going up, and all of a sudden he noticed uh, like almost like a red dot in the air, and he was like, "This is weird." And all of a sudden, he heard, uh, "Put down the gun. Place your hands where we could see them." And apparently, it was the SWAT team. Somebody had seen him on the roof spray painting these things and thought he had an entire arsenal of guns on the roof. He
Oh
was going
my
to do something
gosh.
crazy. So he had the whole street was blocked off. Uh, and,
God.
and I can only imagine. And he said it was just filled to the brim with just heavily armed SWAT. And he was trying to tell him, like, I'm an illustrator. I'm an illustrator. They're like, get down, get down, get down. So when they finally calmed him down, he's like, listen,
He said
this
he's
is
a
for
traitor.
painting. Yeah, he said he's a traitor.
Yeah.
So he when he calmed everyone down, and they realized that the guns were fake, he brought him into the studio and showed him the sketches, and then people realized that he was an artist, and like that he was a pretty famous one too, and they were all laughing and things like that. But you know,
They're
they
like,
could have.
whoa, that was so close. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah,
So,
guys, really
What an
funny.
epic story to be able to
Yeah.
have too, and be like, so for this illustration, the SWAT team actually showed up. Like,
You know what's funny? I almost had, not at that same scale. I personally had a very, very close experience. We were doing a shoot for a Union Station in Kansas City, and it was an AR shoot. So it was gonna be part of there was a thing called the Union Station Massacre with the mob way back in the day, where they like broke a mobster out of federal custody at Union Station. And so we were asked, because they were doing like a historical project on Union Station, to do like a recreation of this with like period correct materials and stuff. And so I had to go to a place, I can't even remember what it was called, but it was like it was part of Kansas City I've never been to. It basically is this guy that like collects and decommissions guns, like period correct guns. And so, and that's his specialty. It was like guns and stuff. Like that was, and so I had to go and get like period correct things for like the mob in Kansas City in like the 1940s, and loaded my car up. And I was like, what do I do if I get pulled over? And he was like, you do not want to get pulled over. And then I got pulled over. I got pulled over.
oh,
I was
Oh
like,
no.
completely forgot, and I immediately had to be like, it's not what it looks like. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, but they're
God.
calm because I wasn't. It was just, in the back of my car, but it did look. Yeah, that's a tough one to explain.
Yeah. Hey, you didn't
Yeah.
have sketches.
Yeah, I didn't have sketches. I just was like, no, I'm an artist.
funny
No.
story. So,
Yeah, really funny. Yeah.
Can
Um,
go ahead, Timmy?
no, I mean, that's the story. It's just funny
Well,
because,
I was going to say, can we stand a similar one? Another one was
oh yeah, yours is
my
terrifying.
famous illustrator.
I mean, these are all, we're saying them like they're funny, but they're actually terrifying stories when you
Yeah.
think of it. Yeah.
Well, the little town I lived in Reading, Connecticut, a lot of illustrators lived there, and they modeled for each other all the time. Their wives modeled for them, and the children modeled. And Fred Otness was doing a piece for the I don't know what magazine it was for, but it was on Richard Speck, the killer in Boston. He was a killer in Boston, a mass murderer and serial killer. And the part of the story was that they had these, what Fred was going to illustrate was he had these women tied up, and he was shooting reference, and my mom and Fran Otness were the women, and they had them tied up. My dad was Richard Speck, and he had a knife and
oh my gosh.
and a group of Fred's construction guys that came to the house Fred lived in a house that was like see-through practically. It was a very contemporary all glass house, and these guys pulled up and they could see the scene going on inside the house.
Oh my gosh.
They rolled into the driveway. And then they just rolled out.
Oh.
They left. And Fred was like, that's not good. That's not good. This is gonna come back to us. And it did. The police showed up about
Yeah.
5 minutes later. And the one policeman that worked at Reading, Connecticut was like Barney Fife. Um, uh, was quickly convinced what was going on, but they had untied. But just imagine, walking into a scene like that with,
Not great.
yeah, not
Optics weren't good.
no illustration savvy.
Tough.
No.
That's
That's a
awesome.
tough one.
Yeah.
Rock and roll,
Ray's
man.
answer.
Rock and
That's awesome. Hey everybody, we got to move on to the third and final image. This is the long stretch, so get comfortable. But first, post your work. It's hashtag Drawing Hive 236, hashtag Drawing Hive and Visual Arts Passage. Throw all that in the caption, and we're gonna check out all the artwork at the end of the night. One thing I am actually really excited about. So, for those of you who may not know, we got Ted Kinsella coming back to teach a visual arts passage, which is really exciting. He's got a class called The Art of the Cover, which is last I checked, I mean it's as close as it gets to selling out. I think there's 2 spots left. It's packed. It's probably the most looked forward to class I think we've ever offered. I mean, Ted's drawn a lot of people. He's going to be surrounded by fanboys and fangirls next semester. So, but the art of the cover is coming up. Starts February 17th. It's a Monday night class. We got a couple other workshops. So, John, you're teaching a figure drawing workshop, which is really exciting.
Yeah,
That's
I saw
around the
that on the
corner.
website
Yeah, that
today.
looks so cool.
Starting in March, which is really exciting. So I recommend checking that out. And then I got a couple other workshops in the pipeline that hopefully we're going to be launching this year. The fun thing about these workshops, if you're not familiar with like our mentorship courses, which they're like 10 weeks long, they're pretty intensive, a really big commitment, I would say, from every student that participates, both financially and with time. It's a great commitment and a great value, but it's a commitment. These workshops I think are a bit easier to bite off and really pour yourself into, because our goal is to keep them between that 3 and 5 weeks. But as we're developing these, I've got some questions for everybody. So I just did a poll. If you can answer this poll, that would be awesome. And I'm going to give one random person a $20 gift card who answers it to wherever. Just if you have no intention of ever taking a class, just please don't answer any of the questions. Just email me and I'll put you in the I'll throw your name in the hat. But don't throw off my data. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm really excited. We're talking about Ashley Lovett, about running a fantasy art class. We got Adam Gustafson looking at children's books. I'm gonna hit up Ray eventually about something. Cassandra.
Sports talk with Ray and John.
Sports
Cassandra.
talk. Yeah.
Lawn and garden with Dale and John.
Lawn and
Yeah.
garden. No, we don't have enough time for that class. Sorry, we cap our classes at 3 hours, John.
Oh man.
Cassandra and I could do like we could do like a Big Lebowski class,
Oh, that'd be amazing.
like a case study on it.
Wait, what is your case study on the Big Lebowski?
I did a great
Wait,
painting of the
wait,
dude too. I
I
really
was
did.
gonna say I don't understand this course at all.
Do
Yeah,
you
I
have
guess you
to
got to sign
though?
up. Put it in the poll. Put it in the poll. Put it in the poll. Let the people decide.
I'm not putting your joke class in my poll.
Only a joke class to you, Timmy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it would be fun. Like I always wanted George, when he was peak caveman status, to do a cave painting class. First, the requirements for course: 1 cave. Yeah.
Hive from Lasco.
Plus a rock that draws.
I
Looking
should have
awesome.
added to the poll. Are you watching the Super Bowl? Because then that would give us a good reference for if we should ever do this again.
By the way, John and I have not even talked a lick, or Cassandra has talked a lick about the Super Bowl. The only person that's actually
need to
chimed
keep
in
it that
on
way.
is you. Is you. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. All right. I won't. I'll stop.
All right. Hey, there's a great question. Can we
Yeah, do it, Cassandra, please.
somebody said, I've been drawing for a few years. I do realistic portraits using the basic pencils and charcoals. Does someone here do the same style? If so, do you have any tips of shading and or proportion?
Yeah, I think any of us can we all do that. Who wants to go first? I mean, I can go
Yeah, you go.
Right, right.
first. So one thing I would recommend is making sure that you just focus on starting as general, going from general to specific. Work on the large proportions, like the height of the head versus the width of the head, so on and so forth, and then work your way down to the smaller and smaller proportions, and leave the features to last because they're very small. They have little influence on the mentally. They have a lot of influence on you as a viewer, but they really have little influence on getting the dimensionality of the head across to a viewer. So that's my recommendation is just hold on to the very end to do. And in terms of shading, just make I would experiment with different uh, uh, um, you know softnesses, grades of graphite if that's what you're using. Charcoal, I love charcoal because you can get a more range of values with given charcoal. Any combination charcoal pencils. I personally I use anything, but charcoal pencils and vine charcoal seem to be something I like using quite a bit too. Yeah, I'll cap it at there.
Yeah, that's good.
Sounds good, Ray. This thing's so wet, I can't touch it. Just making a mess.
I gotta try that. I gotta try that, John.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
No, you guys can't try it because you'll be good at it, and then it's gonna make me look bad.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. You haven't seen me screw up in a long time. I I have an undo button. I've been doing a pretty good job of undoing a lot of my train wrecks.
I thought I could work, but I thought, and maybe it's because I did this on paper before. I'm doing it on acrylic substrate. I mean, it's a masonite with acrylic on it, so it's not absorbent. And it's just like you can't touch it. It just comes apart. So I think I gotta let it sit and dry up to a certain point. I thought I'd be able to draw back into it.
Pop it in the oven.
Mhm.
That's a not a good thing around here right now.
Yeah. Anybody know that reference?
No.
So Frank Frazetta, the grandfathers of fantasy art, Conan the Barbarian, and a bunch of other things. I mean, so he was notoriously a procrastinator, and so would leave his deadlines to the last minute, and his wife would be on his case and be like, Frank, it's due tomorrow and you haven't even started. And he would do his paintings, and to get them dry, he'd throw them in the oven. And he said at a specific temperature, he'd get them warm enough. I do not recommend this, by the way, to anyone. Don't do it. But you can get it warm enough that it doesn't like combust. It won't catch on fire. certain
like,
temperature.
or like what I'm assuming would like poison you as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to cook in that. So
I'll touch of that
after,
too.
but yeah. Um, but you know, it was the 70s, and
I've baked
you know,
paintings before.
Hmm.
That works. But you do it on a really low temperature.
there you go.
And
We got to
that's
be such a stiff, Timmy. We all do it.
I think probably anytime you're heating up chemicals is you're entering a dicey territory.
Yeah. I had a student tell me like,
Yeah.
I read somewhere if somebody puts their palette in their freezer, it'll keep it from drying. And I'm like, yeah, but what happens if like the palette gets spilled over? You have like cadmium's is
Yeah.
really
that's
toxic.
never happened.
Never happened. The next week, I'm not lying. The next week, student comes up to me and like says, "Yeah, I was moving some meat that I was gonna cook, and the palette spilled over, and ultramarine blue and cerulean blue all over
Ooh,
the place,
tough one.
and it fell in like the ice tray."
Oh no.
Yeah,
I had one, I put it in one night and it just like the where the drawer that's like a wire drawer just went right over the top of all the color. And it's in a garage refrigerator.
Wait, so
Spent like
Ray, was this
I was out
student?
it was really cold out. And my wife came out, she goes, "What are you doing?" "Oh, nothing."
I didn't mean to out you, John. I'm
Ray, I
thought
love.
I
sorry.
would
Yeah, I was
clean
gonna
the
say
refrigerator.
Ray's telling the story about a student.
In
I haven't done
quotation
that in a long
marks.
time.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Keeps your paint from drying.
I mean, anything where you're gonna have like a lifetime of doing it, you probably want to minimize your exposure to like
Yeah.
harmful, like because it all compounds over a lifetime, Like my dad worked around,
Yes.
he worked around presses his entire life. They're loud, but they're not as loud as I mean, they're not like you wouldn't know, but if you spend an entire life exposed to them, you lose your hearing. Like that was
Oh
basically
wow.
what happened to my dad.
Oh really? I didn't know. I didn't know
He had
that.
really
Oh
bad
wow.
hearing. I mean, like he lost like he had bad hearing. He had hearing though, but really bad hearing. Yeah. It's just from like a lifetime of just like exposure to probably machinery that was way too loud,
Right.
and then chemicals,
Rock and roll, man. No.
rock and roll. Right.
Is it? I saw a video from George Pratt was that talked about like a demo in painting. He talked about how like when back in the day when artists would do like watercolor demonstrations,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
they would end the demonstration by drinking the cup of dirty water that they had been rinsing their brushes out. Oh,
I've seen Cassandra do that.
I was
well,
parched.
yeah.
Don't judge me. Um, well, and like Bob Ross, he would always empty his brush out like on the bottom of his easel, and like all the spray of the mineral spirits would just like he would just like inhale it right there.
Bang, 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 bang. Yeah,
Man, that's
it makes
yeah.
a mess. By the way, I'm talking from experience. I'm like, oh, sweet, like Bob Ross.
Yeah, yeah.
Bad idea.
Not a good idea.
Yeah. Do you guys have to worry about like lead and stuff ever? Like, oh, I'm sure you run into that pretty often, Cassandra, with the frames you find, right?
Yeah, so
Oh
I got
yeah.
little testers so I can swab the paint if I'm
Sweet.
stripping it off.
What
And
testers do you use? What's your go-to?
oh, I don't know the brand. It's like these Q-tips that you
Okay, cool. Yeah, I
yeah.
have the Q-tips.
Yeah. Q-tips were great. And so I'm just very careful about like you
Yeah.
know, being gloved up and like when I use a green stripper, so like that in
Yeah.
itself isn't bad, but once things are being removed, I'll wear a respirator and gloves and stuff, so nothing
So
gets.
wait, so you don't ditch it when you find it has lead? You'll strip lead?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Cool.
Yeah, because like I
Yeah.
mean everything from 100 years ago had lead in it.
No, totally. I have a thing that has lead on it. It's a car part, and
Hmm.
no one will touch it.
Well, if it's metal, like wood, you know, you're just
Really?
peeling something off and scraping, and like it's,
Oh, I see what you mean.
I'm not having to like metal. That's a whole different,
Really? Yeah. Yeah,
you
they
know,
won't
thing
touch it.
there.
They literally are just like, no, no one's ever gonna touch it. And they're like, unless you find a shop that like doesn't believe in lead poisoning, and you know, and they're like, you might have to go further south for that job. You know, where a guy's like, oh, I just rub some dirt on it. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Never bother me.
Yeah, it never bothered me. And you're like, that's
Never
haunting.
bothered me, man.
We used to do this every day for decades back in the day. And you're like, well, okay. That sounds like anecdotal data. But
Even
yeah.
illustrators talking about spraying spray fixative
Yeah.
Oh,
indoors.
yeah, like Greg Spolenka.
What's
Yeah,
the I
David
don't
did
even
that
know
too.
what is in spray fixative that's so dangerous.
Uh,
Oh,
Bestine, like it's rubber cement thinner. I mean, it's basically like it's a butane
Yeah.
as
Especially
well.
like, what was it called? Clear, what was that?
Clear,
crystal clear.
crystal clear.
Crystal clear. Oh
Are
my
these
God.
are
Or
these
that
off
stuff that Chris used that,
Chris Payne?
It's Miston. No, Miston. I'm sorry. Sure Guard.
Sure Guard.
Sure guard, yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, Chris Payne. So you don't want these are basically things to seal off your drawings to prevent any smudging or paintings. And illustrators use them to speed up drying times to seal off surfaces so they can continue to keep working on top. Like it would basically sometimes when you're working with color pencil or charcoal or graphite, you'll notice that like there's a certain point where you oversaturate your substrate and really just can't put any more medium down. Um, if you spray fix it, it seals off that layer and it gives you a fresh layer to then add on more medium on top and build up that surface even more. So the problem is it's very toxic. So you got to do it outside. Make sure you do it outside because it's extremely toxic.
What do you think is the most common material that artists most commonly come across when they're getting started that is dangerous or toxic?
Oh,
Watercolor and pastels.
Really?
Yeah, because so the thing with pigments is that they're safe as long as you don't ingest them, right? Um, they can get into your bloodstream through ingestion is the most common way. I mean, under your fingernails. But with watercolor, people think, hey, it's water, whatever. And if it's a toxic pigment, they're ingesting it. It's not going to be great. So, and pastels, what people usually do too is it's very common for people to blow on the pastel
Yeah.
because if there's dust on it, and that just shoots the pigment all over the place.
right in your lungs.
Yeah,
Wow.
right in your lung.
Yikes.
Do you want to be an artist, kid?
Yeah, like they've gotten a lot better than they used to
Yes,
be.
yes.
And they're actually disclosing what is in stuff. And there's,
Mhm.
alternative options. Like I always work with cadmium-free cadmium colors. So
Ditto.
that I'm just not even using some of that stuff. And so I will pick pigments and paints that are a whole lot safer to be around. And so it's nice that there are those options. There used to not be those options, and then we didn't even realize we needed an alternative option because they weren't really good at telling us about that.
Right.
Yeah, is there a
I mean, I
good
was just
Is there anyone that like kind of audits this and like publishes it or
Yes.
like, yeah?
Yep.
Who?
Yep. There, yeah. On the back of every brush, there's an actual seal. I'm sorry, back of every common like paint, artist paint seal from um
I think we lost you, right?
the ACMI. No, I was just
Oh,
going over to
okay.
my tube of paint that I have right here. The ACMI. It's basically a group that vets, whether something is safe to use,
Oh, okay.
and what the toxicity level is, and if it's toxic, it contains lead. They have to disclose
Wow.
that. Certain states they can't sell it.
Hmm.
Right. Probably no
So
California.
Yeah, California
yeah,
probably has the most strict laws for it.
yeah,
Like every piece of clothing I own says like you probably shouldn't wear this.
right.
It's
It's
banned in
known in the state of
California.
California. Yeah, we used
Yeah.
to joke like only here it's known. So whatever they're doing here across,
Yeah.
across the state lines is making it tripling the toxicity. No, but it's so yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're painting, um,
Yeah.
you know, just make sure you're constantly washing your hands. I mean, I wear gloves all the time. I wear
Yeah.
an apron too. You just gotta. One of my good friends of mine, Jim Houston, um, great artist. He the way he put it was perfect to his students. He's like, you have to respect the medium. You have to respect the fact that it is dangerous, and you have to
Mhm.
use it properly. That's all.
But I mean, probably I would say the highest likelihood of like exposure, which is basically how I've been exposed to bad chemicals in my life, has been assuming, making an assumption about a material you're going to handle,
Yeah.
and then not until you're like either in the thick of it or later, you're like, I wonder if I shouldn't have removed all of that insulation with my bare
Right.
hands.
Right.
It's like in your hair, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll
Yeah.
post a
Yeah.
photo to this to like the subreddit. Is this gonna kill me? Like, yeah, yeah. That
Have you ever heard of Willis O'Brien?
no.
Timmy? No? Oh, I thought so. He did. He was the guy that created the armature for King Kong,
Oh, cool.
and so it was a great stop motion animator. But like is like a legend, right? I think he was
Yeah.
a Ray Harryhausen's mentor. I think. Um, but O'Brien, he passed away. He was doing a shoot in a basement. Whatever chemicals they were using had asbestos in it.
Yeah.
Some for the set, or I don't know if it was asbestos, but whatever they were building with the set had that chemical in basement shooting,
Yeah.
hot lights and everything like that. That's what took him out.
I can't even
Eventually
imagine
passed away.
the chemicals my dad was exposed to running a press from the 1950, probably 56 to,
Oh man.
yeah, I can't imagine.
You
Not
know, I was
only
talking to a lot.
because even then, even the chemicals that they knew were toxic, there wasn't like a consumer like,
There wasn't an alternative.
well, that, and there was no urgency to really care. Like it was like I don't know. I feel like there was less of an emphasis on like how it was one of those things where it's like, well, did you sleep okay last night? Oh, you're fine. Like
Mhm.
that. There was no there wasn't probably as much awareness on a consumer level of like
Yeah,
compound interest on the carcinogen exposure.
yeah. There wasn't a
Like your
sense of urgency
job.
to yeah. Do you
Yeah.
like your job? Yeah.
That's probably more like it than anyone. So you want to keep your job?
Yeah.
Get back in there, kid.
That would have been his dad. Yeah.
Timmy,
Yeah.
so are any of the inks themselves like at a certain era toxic? Like if you handled them long enough?
Certainly, but I don't know
Yeah.
what. Yeah.
I mean, I know even like I was talking to a librarian once, about like uh their job, and they the biggest issue they have is handling old books because of
Oh
like
yeah,
mold
there's a lot of
stuff, and
arsenic in them.
arsenic.
What?
Yeah,
That's funny. I just literally the
yeah.
other day I had to I'm searching for a marriage license and I had to go through all the 1930s uh indexes.
Oh
So
man.
when does that arsenic really kick in, Cassandra?
The
Is there
arsenic was more in the like coloring of like the cloth and stuff too, that like went around the
nice?
cover and stuff. It's not
Okay,
so much of the
I think
actual
I'm
inks
good.
of the
The-
print, but yeah,
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of arsenic in books.
I have
yeah. It
also
was
been
like
told that like these things are, I mean, I have no idea if this is true or not, but I've always been told that like this is like a lot of the um the regulation kicked off with the intent of there were people handling these materials all day, every day, 40 to 60 hours a week. And that was the issue, not so much, you know,
The consumer,
well, like me
somebody was looking for
removing
yeah,
a
marriage
one-time event,
license.
like a one-time event. I mean, it probably totally, I mean, it doesn't probably, it definitely depends on what you're talking about,
hmm
but I don't know. I did have I removed a bunch of insulation once and didn't think about it at all, and I had a panic attack after, and it
Yeah,
turns out I
so I
was
mean,
okay.
we're in actually a good time as times can go. Like there's so much more awareness for art supplies. So in that
Yeah.
aspect, like that's really good that that's out there. And I'm appreciative of the artists
Hmm.
that came before us that like took the time to make sure that maybe there was more awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Because you just
no.
didn't know.
Yeah.
I had an art teacher in high school that right around when I had her as my teacher, she had to stop oil painting because she had gone to the doctor and they said her liver couldn't handle her oil painting anymore
Oh
because
my gosh.
because of the kind of oils that she had been using all her life.
Do you guys want to hear like it's like a this is like a villain origin story from my dad's background. But he operated a Heidelberg press in the basement for years. And when his dad died when he was 15. I've told this part of the story, but he was going to a private all boys school down the street from his house. After his dad died, his dad had was printing for the school in exchange for his son's tuition. And so my dad basically this is like wild that this is like 1960s high school. They basically were like, so sorry your dad died. So we're gonna need you to pick up the printing still.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my god.
So he had to print for his tuition immediately, right? His first job was his dad's funeral prayer cards.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh.
yeah, but he printed the Prep News, which was the newspaper, like the student newspaper, and he would print. He would go home after school and then basically print all night, and never did homework. No, like, did not like the only reason I think he ever graduated was teachers just felt so bad for him. But he had one teacher at Rockhurst who was really mean, and he would make my dad go up in front of the whole class and show off his ink stained hands and tell the rest of the
What?
class, if you don't study and pay attention, you're gonna have to work like he does at night.
No.
And he would make him scrub his hands, and he could. I mean, you can't get ink off your hands like that. Like it's on there.
No. Right.
Yeah, but his hands were covered in ink. My dad said like it wasn't until he was just also kind of a clumsy guy. His hands were stained in ink like his entire childhood. Like when you talk about exposure to like bad chemicals,
Oh my
it's just
gosh.
like terrible. But yeah, yeah, isn't that like a Matilda like story?
Yes. Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Was the teacher named Miss Trunchbull?
No, but I think that was like mild. Like that was like, oh, you got off easy.
Oh my
They were so mean back then. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, years later, your dad was laughing. You would drive by that school, which is very close to my house, And Tim's name was always on the marquee in front of the school for the money that he donated to the place.
Well, they would, yeah, someone asked him, they were running, the president of the school asked him, like, what's your aspiration? And he goes, someday I want to make enough money that I can buy this school. And they're like, oh my God, that's so sweet. And they're like, well, what inspired that? And he goes, so I can bulldoze it down. I always thought that was so fun. Yeah.
Save the next generation.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Kind of interesting he sent all his kids there though.
Well, that's just a reflection of Kansas City's schooling system more than
or
it
or
is
a plot to dismantle the school from the inside.
yeah. Yeah, it's
We
funny.
got
It's
him
whenever that it was only one time his name ended up on the front of it, and it was when they did that, I went and took a photo in front of it like it was my name, and I was in school, and then I put those photos up around the school, and it confused everyone. Everybody thought that it was alumnus of the year or whatever, and they were like, what, we're naming kids
Before
that
he even
now?
left. He even
Before
left.
he even left. Yeah, I was like, I campaigned really hard, and hard work. Yeah.
Care about education.
I care
Here
deeply
for it.
about education. It's funny because I share my dad's sentiment with every educational institution I've been through, and maybe that's why I run a good online school with John. Is that if I could, I'd bulldoze every school I went to. Yeah, yeah. Not a lot of allies in the world of academia. Not every school I visited, every school I was enrolled at. I should be more clear. I don't want anybody thinking I'm talking about schools I've visited. Yeah.
Now, what do you think about other people's homes? I'm not inviting you over.
You know,
I would just bulldoze this.
it is funny.
Any other place.
It is funny that, like, yeah, that's a natural inclination to just be like, I would really relish the experience of destroying this location. Uh, some light demo.
Ever heard
Ag
anyone?
life goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all got a dream.
Yeah,
we
we
all
all
got a
got a
dream.
dream. A boy can dream. A boy sure can dream. Yeah. We're getting close to the end of the night. We got 5 minutes before I tell people to start posting. So
My gosh,
hustle.
I'm not moving fast enough here.
Got a lot done, Cassandra.
Like, it needs more. It needs more.
Last week we talked about bad jobs. Did you guys ever had a bad job where you just, I'm thinking of like working in because somebody said their dad worked in a print shop. I worked in a print shop, and I've never been more tired than the days after being in a print shop. Did you guys ever have jobs like that where you just like collapsed at the end of the day?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, waitressing, dude.
Yeah.
Waitressing. That will do it.
Cassandra, you would be, I'm sure you were an incredible wait.
You were very kind to say. It was hard though, because I'm not
Oh, I'm
an
sure.
extrovert. So I liked people, I liked meeting them, but it was hard to do that, 40 times in a row.
Yeah. Well, you would never know from, meeting you that you would wouldn't consider yourself an extrovert.
Yeah. I
In
mean,
your solo show, you were like backflipping and watch this. Like,
no, please.
oh,
We'll find out. Cassandra was like one of those bartenders that would pour like 20 shots all at once. But what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
Tom Cruise in what is it?
Cocktails had nothing on me.
Yeah. Yeah. 12-hour shift. I can't even imagine now.
I had a very short experience uh, with a summer job when I was a senior in high school between my senior year and my going to college. And I say a summer job, but it didn't last the whole summer. I couldn't stand it. I was
Yeah.
a brick tender. Paid great, but I had to carry bricks up a ladder for a couple for a couple of masons that, building fireplaces, building houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was the absolute worst experience for me,
Wow.
Yeah.
for a
That would
job.
get you fit. Oh my gosh, that was so hard.
That just
Yeah.
sounds like it's designed to break backs.
Yeah.
Just
Or just
literally.
And
break hope.
what you don't think about, I always considered myself, as an athlete and
Break hope.
physical guy. I was working for these masons that were like machines. They were
Yeah.
so strong. It was impossible to keep up with them. They had been doing it for 20 or 30 years, and they were just
Yeah.
interesting summer.
How long did you last in that job?
About a month.
Well, that's impressive.
From my experience, though, the worst jobs are not the ones that are tiring, but that are boring. That's my personal experience.
Yeah.
I've loved the physical job, like jobs where I was moving around a lot, because I could go home and be like, okay, now I'm gonna focus on this thing I like. Like I could like switch, whereas like when I was just bored at work, it's like almost like too much thinking. And then at the end of the day, you're just like, oh, but yeah.
Right.
I was talking last week about working at that publishing house, and I was thinking about it. I was texting a buddy of mine who was there at the time, and he was like, "Do you remember that job correctly?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was awful." And he was like, "You would go play." I remember this. I went through a period where I was like, "I can't work here anymore, and I don't want to quit. I need to get fired. I need to just be let go." And I would go play pickup basketball I would leave. I basically was just like, I wonder how long I have to leave here before someone says something. And it just like never, I just kept pushing it. And
Wow.
I was in basketball leagues. I was playing like 2 hours of pickup basketball. I got addicted to it. Yeah. And I would show back up and they didn't have a shower where I worked. And so I would just put on work. Like I would put on like business casual, just drenched in sweat. It was awful. Go to like a meeting with like it was just terrible. Yeah. Oh, wedding photography is brutal. I did that a lot.
I gotta
It's a
say,
bad job.
Gap Outlet during the holidays. My first job was Gap Outlet, and that was some hard work. You would have a whole table of jeans like ordered by size, and you have like one person come through and just destroy it all. And then it looks like you did nothing, and then you got to fix it all again. And it was just everything on repeat.
I often have thought about Cassandra when I'm looking for a 34-inch waist. If everybody there is annoyed I can't fold it properly back, and the answer has just been answered.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally annoyed.
Yeah,
I like,
they hate me, don't they?
well, yeah, because you're like
The
the
short
fifth
answer,
person
yes.
that destroyed it.
And I'll look at them and I'll be like, I'm so sorry.
I
And they're
don't
just
know.
like,
I don't know if you were, you'd be like, oh,
yeah,
whatever. I should be at work, but I'm here shopping for
no,
clothes before I go to my pickup basketball game.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we went,
I go
yeah,
into stores, and if I'm looking, I have to carefully like slide my hands under and then like scoot it to find the size, because I just I don't want to do that to another person.
yeah. My friend Alice was in retail for a while, and it was, definitely kind of her for her at that time was kind of like a soul sucking. She was over it, right? She was in it too long. And there was a day where she noticed some really strange like credit card charges coming through for
Oh,
like one item, and she started looking into it, and it all went back to this warehouse in New Jersey, and she just kept peeling back the layers of the onion, and she like broke up like a major scam, like a theft operation that was occurring.
Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
It was
Alice
so
did?
much fun. Yeah, it was really fun. Like, yeah, like looking into the locations and like understanding why so many purchases and returns were happening. And then like looking into the returns because they were like they're making purchases from one location, but then making returns in another state.
Yep.
It was fun. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Um, and at the time it never worked, but there was we were listening to a thing about scams like that. And we put at the time AirTags did not exist. We put a tile in it in one of the things they
Yeah.
ordered. And exactly as it happened in the thing we listened to, the tile unfortunately died before it got to the destination.
Did the company reward her for like figuring
No,
it out?
no, of course not.
She was just doing her job.
Yeah, they were just like, yeah,
She like
Give
straight
it
up Sherlock Holmes did. Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's your
know.
job, fraud prevention.
a lot of that was also when I was like an assistant photographer, and so I was available. Like if I wasn't on a shoot, I was bored all the time during the week if there wasn't a shoot, and all my friends had just gotten like real jobs, where they're like 9 to 5s, and so I was just like anytime I'd be like, yeah, let's do this. Everybody start posting your work. We're gonna head over to Instagram in about 5 minutes, so it's hashtag Drawing Hive 236 hashtag Drawing Hive and Add Visual Arts Passage. We're gonna check it out. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna have fun.
I mean, you were the Kramer of your group of friends. Like nobody actually knew what you did.
There was a window of time where if I wasn't, I was either really busy because shoots were happening, and then I would go like a full week where you're just like, oh man, I hope the phone rings. And I just never did. I never did like I do fun editing stuff, but I never did like personal shoots and stuff.
Right, right.
So I was just hanging out, man. I was like hanging out 22 years. John, I drove by my old our old my old warehouse I lived in like 2 days ago. Went and scoped it out. Tried to see who was living there.
Get a little teary-eyed.
Yeah, it was kind of sad. I thought, you know what I thought of when I'm assuming it's okay, but when do you remember when your sister uh found all that contraband, that high school liquor? It was beer. It was just cheap beer for some party.
Right.
They didn't know what to do with it, and she gave it to me. So I inherited like $400 worth of like Keystone lights.
Oh
my
my God,
gosh.
$400.
I was like,
What?
it was a high school party that got busted, and I was just like 22.
$400
People would be
of
like,
Keystone?
I mean, it was I probably exaggerated, but it was, it was like several hundred cans of it.
That's like 4 pallets of beer. Did
It
they
was
rob
like
a
eight. It was
delivery
like
truck?
eight. It was like 30 racks of beer. It was hilarious. But people would
God.
come over and they'd be like, "What is your deal?" What
That
is
that
that?
that was mild for that building.
Yeah,
Tell them who your upstairs neighbors were.
Tech Nine, and it was not what you would expect a successful rapper would rent. The funniest thing was when this guy would use eventually there'd be like some people there that didn't know how to use our elevator. It was an old school like freight elevator where you would have to it was a huge toggle button, but you'd have to push the button and hold it down to operate the motor for the elevator. So if you just pressed it, the elevator would just bounce. Like it would just shake because you have to
Right.
hold it down for the motor to, the pulley to go and everything. And it would be like 3 a.m. and you just hear some guy being like, the elevator is broken. and you would just hear doo, 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 doo. Like the entire building would be waking up
Oh
like
my
to
gosh.
this elevator going doo, 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 doo. Yeah, it's a fun time. I
When
miss
you
it.
say fun, you mean annoying.
It was so much fun. It was back when the West Bottoms in Kansas City was a cool area. It was like living in the country, but in the middle of a city. It was so much fun. A lot of creative people.
Well, that's awesome.
And now they're kind of trying to convert it into a, a Richie rich neighborhood, which
That's what
makes me
happens.
sad.
Artists first and
Yep.
it gets
Me
gentrified.
too.
They did a census report when I lived down there, and I was one of 40 people who lived in the West Bottoms. And it was so much fun.
One of 40.
Yeah. And it was a huge area,
Wow.
like massive area. It was like encompassed like probably like 15 blocks. Like it was,
Oh my God.
yeah. Cassandra, do you have an ouchie? Is that
Oh, yeah. You ever have
Yeah.
one of those cascade accident event moments?
yeah.
And I've got Ant-Man Band-Aid.
Oh, I thought that was like a ring at first. Like, I was like, oh, that's kind of funky. I like that.
Yeah, no, I'm not that cool. So I had a frame propped up on an easel that I had just restored, of course. And then it fell and knocked another frame over, and then knocked my gnome in that I made for outdoors that I brought in because of like gutter cleaning, and it broke part of the handle on the gnome, and the corner of the
Oh,
frame just like nicked my knuckle like 20 minutes before Drawing Hive. So I didn't want to show blood on the. So now I've got my kid's Band-Aid because that was what was accessible.
Cassandra, like 2 weeks ago, I cut my hand really bad. Like I cut my hand at my mom's place and my nephew was over there
Hmm.
and he saw a band-aid on my hand. And when I cut it, it was just like a little cut. I mean, like it bled really bad, but it was just a cut, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he's 3 and he's like, what's up with the band-aid? He's like asking me about it. And I was like, do you want to see it? Do you want to see my? I thought this is a fun little thing to show a kid.
Oh
I
my
don't know,
gosh.
just whatever. And I just thought I was going to open it and there would just be a little tiny cut. And it was, I completely made a mistake where it was so gruesome. And I immediately was like, oh, never mind. I'm so sorry. And my sister-in-law was like, why did you just do that? And I was just like, I I was like, it was such a tiny little cut when I put the band-aid on it.
Sometimes they
It
just
it
bleed good,
it
right?
was literally just like I showed him like a clip from like the Alien franchise. It was like I was like, I'm so sorry, buddy. Uh
it's
and
probably
he
like my
Way to
uncle
add
is
to the emotional
awesome.
trauma there.
just like wide-eyed, just staring, you know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
so yeah, I
yeah.
just had this dumb moment of just like, really, did it have to be like four things in a row and then my hand? Yeah,
Yeah.
it just felt not my smartest.
Well, it didn't affect your painting.
Thanks. I was struggling with an alligator all day painting one, so this is kind of refreshing in comparison.
Yeah, I just started this piece and it's gonna be a long slog. It's one of those pieces. It's just
Do you
like,
ever
yeah,
have like that naive moment where you're like, but you know what? Maybe just like it's not going to take that long. Like in your head, you have a
yeah.
number, right, of how long it's going to take. But then there's this delusional part of you being like, but you know what? I got this. You'll start out strong, thinking you'll go fast, and no, that's not what happens.
Now I've learned to be like, all right, well, you're gonna be here for a while,
Mm-hmm.
hanging out, staring at me. Might as well get to know each other.
Yep.
All right, are you guys ready to see some art?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
We're doing it.
That's great.
That's some great stuff. I want to make sure you get it.
Nice.
All right, saw that Patrick Mahone with the huge mouth
Yeah,
is the first one.
yeah,
Oh,
that one
great job.
is strong, right? This is great stuff. All right.
I meant to tell everybody there's no doing Mahomes as Kermit.
Oh, I think you might be disappointed.
I
man.
think I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Oh, that was lovely. Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
that's awesome.
Oh,
Really nice, Chuck.
nice.
I love
Yeah, there you go, Eric.
that. That is awesome. That's
Had a
so
great
awesome.
time paying
that.
attention.
Get that out of here.
you go,
And then
Eric.
Sally's right behind. I love that like you guys did that. That's amazing, y'all.
That's great. Good job.
Nice, Tyler.
That's great. Good job.
I like
And then-
antagonism.
oh,
more
that's
than-
lovely.
Whoa.
So delicately
That's
done.
nice.
really,
Wow,
truly.
that's
Beautifully
really
done.
nice.
Wow, that's
Awesome.
Oh.
great.
Wow, fun.
Look at AJ's. Holy.
Oh, that's cool,
Look at
AJ. Great job. So fun.
There
Nice,
you go,
Terry.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Nice. I like that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good job.
All right.
Oh, Marcy, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Great job. That's a hard expression too.
Yeah, it is.
Really nice.
Love it.
So fun. Yes. Great
Nice.
job. Really nice.
Nice. Nice, Valerie.
It's good.
There you go.
All
Yeah.
right.
I'm always
This
trying
is
to
good
read
stuff.
everything. Yeah. Very good. Good movement with
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that you're like, and he will have a flag and mark this land.
We will be on the moon.
Really nice. Ooh, that's
Oh,
cool,
nice,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Wow.
Love that ink. Really nice,
There you go.
Robert.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh, that's great,
that's
Tim.
good, Xander.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's
Oh my
Nice,
God.
AJ.
I love what you do, AJ.
I love how you'd use that. Nice,
Come on,
Julian.
Julian. Ugh.
Good
Take a
job.
night off, Julian. Just once.
All right,
Oh,
that's good.
nice. Way to bring the Kendrick.
Nice.
Great job.
Nice.
Wow.
Thank you for taking it upon
You
yourself.
get a hard teacher's
well, I was
pet.
just saying, go get the rep. I appreciate that somebody did it.
No, that's
Nice,
an
Ashley.
incredible portrait too. It's
Yeah.
awesome, Ashley.
Good job. So fun.
You did him dirty with his hairline there.
I think it's perfect.
Oh, I like how you handled movement there. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like,
Little smear.
Fine.
Nice,
There you go,
Nicole.
Nicole.
that's fun little narrative.
Oh,
Good one.
Nice.
Nice stuff.
nice. Love it.
Of the
Every
frames.
time.
Reportage. I love it.
Yeah,
Great
There you go,
job.
Terry.
fun.
Really nice.
Go.
So cute. Oh, that's cool, Karen.
Great.
Great job. Oh, that's really good.
Nice.
Really
Oh,
nice,
wow.
Rebecca.
Oh, the neighbor.
Oh, your neighbor did a great job.
Nice. There you go,
These are
Felicity.
awesome. That's awesome, Felicity.
Fantastic, Felicity.
It's so cool.
Nice.
Oh, June.
Yeah,
You
June.
did so
Oh,
good.
man, that wins it. That
I
wins it.
love
That's the
it.
best
Look at the
Mahomes.
teeth.
Whoa.
Yeah, give me a heart for that one.
All
I'll
right.
use my.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
that's
That's
lovely.
Yeah. That's a great one to end on, everybody. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for tuning in. What a fun one. We'll be back at it with more what we say, crowd pleasing topics, less divisive. but we're gonna be back at it next Thursday. So if you enjoyed drawing with us, I hope you come back and draw with us next week. We'll have a new topic, something fun.
Thank you, everybody.
Have
Thanks,
a
everyone.
great week, y'all.
Yep. Bye.